Welcome to Guest of the Year. I'm the host. My name's Mike. Joining me today as our second ever guest setlist curator is Rob Bleetstein. Rob is a host-producer on the Sirius XM Grateful Dead and Pearl Jam channels. He saw his first show in 1973 and is overall a walking, talking music encyclopedia. Welcome, Rob.
Howdy.
All right, today we've got 5 deadheads from around the country competing for a prize pack donated by Dyer on the Mountain. Dyer on the Mountain is run by an amazing woman named Jennifer, who I've been lucky enough to get to know over the past few months. She dyes all types of garments, dead shirts from the community, non-dead shirts, creates her own shirts. She's does upcycling. She gives second lives to stained or damaged clothing. She just does some of the best dyes out there. Just incredible stuff. Thank you so much to Dyer on the Mountain. All of their links will be in the show notes. As I've mentioned, every week we're going to have a different prize pack provider, and each one of them is handpicked by From the Lot, at From the Lot on Instagram. That's Mason. Thanks so much to Mason and Jennifer, both. All right, here's how the game works. We'll play the first part of a Grateful Dead live track, and each contestant will use the messaging system to silently guess which year the performance is from. Contestants who are all in video chat to prevent any possibility of cheating can submit their guesses at any time during the clip or in the 10 seconds after it concludes. Whoever is furthest from the correct year is eliminated. The last 2 deadheads standing will have a best of 3 series to determine a winner. We've got our returning champion James here with us, and we'll meet the rest of the deadheads in a moment. But first, let's hear the first song. Without further ado, The Grateful Dead. All right, the guesses are in. It was China Cat Sunflower at Winterland on December 29th, 1977. Rob, why'd you choose that song?
It was my first Winterland show, and they brought back China Cat. That version just always sticks out, and just as that portion that was played, it's just on fire. So how many winners do we have?
We have no winners. So we had 4 people guess 78, and 1 person guessed 72.
Just a few nights before 78. They're close.
So the 4 people who guessed 1978 are all on to the next round. The one who guessed 72 is eliminated, sadly. Bob guessed 1978. It's Bob's birthday. Happy birthday, Bob. You are 47 and from Illinois. How'd you arrive at 78?
Yeah, so it was tough. Doing the usual thing. I think trying to hear the keys a little bit as it was going, but it was a very, for me at least, kind of jarring rendition of the song. As I was trying to place it, I just kept creeping later and later and later, and then was kind of torn between 77, 78. Landed on 78. I was a couple days away, I guess, but it was just the feel of that China Cat for me. It just seemed, and Jerry's tone for sure as well. Just felt like late 70s a lot, and that's where I landed.
Great. Happy birthday, Bob. Thanks for spending it with Guest of the Year.
Thank you. And thanks, Rob. This is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Bob, you're on in the next round. And for those who have heard the show before, we like to ask people how they got into the Dead, and we're going to keep doing that, but just on a rolling basis. So as the show goes on, we'll hear everyone's full story. But for now, Bob, thanks for being here. And joining you in the next round will be Seth, who's 42 and from Raleigh, North Carolina. Seth, you guessed 1978. Why did you guess 78?
So kind of like what Bob was talking about, I was on the cusp between 77 and 78. And I guess literally the song was on the cusp of 77, 78. So it made sense. But I always default to 78 when I'm not sure, because that's the year my wife was born. So it's just like the lucky number. So I guess I got the lucky one.
Perfect. You're on to the next round, Seth. Derrick,
Thank you.
You're also on the next round. Derrick is 42 and he's from North Wales, Pennsylvania. Anything you want to add to the analysis there, Derrick?
Drums, obviously Jerry's guitar. But again, you're searching for the keys. It's like the keys, Donna, or there are two drummers. You know what I mean? So for me, that was just the drums. I was like, is it 77 or 78? But yeah.
So why couldn't it have been like 79 drums? Or obviously it could have been, but what was distinct about 78, 77?
It's not that I can't. You know what? I'm not going to be able to explain it properly, but I'm a musician. I listen to the Dead a lot. I'm a drummer, and I listen for those things. There's certain little percussive elements that you can hear. Like if you're listening to like Supplication or something, there's a lot of the cowbells. There's just little things that Mickey does that you can pick up on that are just there. I'm happy to go to the next round.
Okay, the last of the 78ers is Todd. He is 52 and he's from Richmond, Virginia. Todd, why'd you guess 78?
For me, I feel like I can tell a lot from the general audio mix. So I just sort of pick up right away that this is the late 1970s. I can hear Keith on the piano playing really, really big chords. There's just a way that the band sounds at that point, really, really full sounding and sort of moving on all gears. And then the key for me on this one, to get it wrong apparently, is Jerry Garcia's guitar tone, which is very, very sizzly, especially when he's digging in really hard, going for the higher notes. It's I should have known that it was the fall of 77, but this goes into 78 as well. It's a classic sound for the fall of 77, and Rob just did a great job of picking a song that was super tricky. Sounds really great though.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for being here. You're on to the next round, which means James, our returning champ, is eliminated. He guessed 1972. James is 32 and he's from Larkspur, California. James, what tripped you up there?
Last week, I was not guilty of overthinking, and this time around, Rob just got me, and I was lost. It was like, I studied for this, man, and I was just like, and I should have spotted the guitar tone. It must have flown right past me. I can tell this group has a lot going for it in terms of what it's looking for. We've got some educated ears here. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. I just kind of blew it.
Well, thanks for doing it, James. Great run.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Seth, Bob, Todd, and Derrick are on in the next round. Rob has a great song picked out for them. Let's hear it. Okay, the guesses are in. Dark Star at Nassau Coliseum on January 10th, 1979. Rob, nice pick. Why'd you choose that one?
Again, some of the greatest late 70s guitar work from the Wolf and Garcia. Just the fact that they did Dark Star again after the closing Winterland, the fact that they did it at Nassau Coliseum, where this was the first night they played in 6 years after all the bus and bullshit in their 73 shows there. And it's just an epic Dark Star. And then even after the drums, with this space segment and this thing before the Warp Rat is the most insane thing like ever. Matter of fact, that Nassau show, that Dark Star was from, was sandwiched between two Philly shows. They were all shows that got postponed from November of '78 when he lost his voice. And so there was a Philly show like on January 5th and a Philly show on January 12th, and they were like blizzard, both of them, I think, going back and forth. But we did it.
Oh, wow. So you were at that show. You saw that Dark Star.
Yes, indeed. I'm really glad I ate the shrooms at the set break. So it was freaking perfect. Fucking was perfect.
So that's your favorite Dark Star ever?
Good question. No. It's the favorite one. It's the best one I've seen. I'll tell you. Well, Frozen Wonderland is in its own world. I'll take a '69 Dark Star just because I never got to really take one in and would love to. We got 4 winners on this one.
Not quite. So actually Todd was closest in 1978. Todd, you are on to the next round. You are only 1 year off. How'd you figure that one out?
So again, it sounds a lot like '78. It's got that classic late '70s sound, in particular '78, real big full sound. Keith is really, really sparse on the piano, not playing a whole lot. And being 79 is the right answer. This is super tricky because Keith only played for a month or so in 1979 before they transitioned over to Brent. So the guitar still sounds really, really sizzly to me in sort of a 1978 fashion. It hasn't transitioned into crispy yet as Garcia leaves playing the Wolf and starts to pick up Tiger and has some equipment changes later in '79 as well. So just another really excellent pick and a super tricky pick in there as well from Rob. So I feel pretty good about guessing '78 when it was only a month into '79.
What's your trick for differentiating the Tiger and the Wolf?
So it's really subtle, but in this transition period in 1979, when Garcia stops playing the Wolf and picks up the Tiger, you can definitely hear a change. The Wolf has a relatively thin sound. It's kind of sizzly again when he really digs in and plays those higher notes. There's some other equipment changes that are happening around this time as well with Garcia's guitar rig and his amps and his effects pedals. But when the Tiger comes into play, the sound is a little bit rounder, a little bit mellower, but it can also be quite crispy as opposed to the sizzly sound of the Wolf. The Tiger's got sort of a crisp, hard edge to it as opposed to Wolf's sort of bigger sizzle.
I love it. Thank you. Okay, Seth was next closest. Seth, guessed 1981. 2 years off, very close. Why 81?
Yeah, so that one tricked me up too. I thought I heard a organ in there, so I was thinking early 80s, even late 70s. And Jerry's tone, it almost sounded like it was in the Tiger era, but again, I think I got tripped up on that one. Go on, Rob. But no, I mean they were on point in that era, going into the early '80s, and very. I like the word crispy too. Very crispy. Starting to get hungry.
Awesome, Seth. You're on to the next round. Okay, Bob guessed 1975. The birthday guy. So he's on the next round. Derrick is 74. I'm sorry you're eliminated, Derrick. For first, Bob, what'd you hear there?
Oh man, that was a total, can I say mind fuck? That was a total mind fuck for me. I mean, I was trying to dig in, hear the organ, hear the keys, just trying to suss that out a lot. I was like, where was I with the last song? And kind of got into my head a little bit around that. But I was gonna say 81, and then I was dialed into 79, and then I was like, maybe I got to back it out because you could hear the two drums. It was just a tough one for me. I got in a little bit into my own head and landed on 75 as kind of a safe choice. But what a great selection, Rob. Whew.
Yeah, that was a great one, Rob.
I think this is like a totally almost undersung, unknown Dark Star. People need to seek this one out. It's so great. The whole show, and it's also the last time they played St. Stephen with Keith and Donna. It's also the last time Dark Star and St. Stephen were in the same show together, I'm pretty sure.
Do you have a feeling for why they shelved St. Steve? They played like one more time in the 80s or whatever, or two more times.
Yeah, because if you listen to those, you'll see why. Well, when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. What are you gonna do?
Derrick, I'm sorry you're eliminated because you got 74, 1 year off the pace. Yeah, why 74?
Yeah, dude, like Bob was saying, total mind fuck. Tried to get in it. The recording was a little different, and I was really trying to distinguish if there was two drummers or not. And I started listening to Garcia's tone, and originally I wanted to say 78, but I couldn't get the elements that I was looking for. Todd is articulating everything awesome. Yeah, it was just a little bit of a guess there.
But a good one because there's a lot of out there Dark Stars in 74.
Yeah, it was like I said, I was really trying to like tune into the drummers or get a feel for the keys. But it's nice to be challenged. We're all here to be challenged. So
yeah, Rob's bringing the heat. Derrick, before you go, tell us, how'd you get into the Dead?
Yeah, how I got into the Dead is that my parents have always been in a band. Before I was born, they had a band and they were playing Dead songs, and even today they're still in a band playing Dead songs. They're playing in North Wales on March 11th. They've been playing Dead songs forever. So by osmosis, I would just hear everything, and like any good kid, naturally rebelled against all of it. Basically told them to go fuck themselves many times. Not literally, but it's like it's your parents' music for a long time until you realize it's like your own little like safe spot. So after getting a little bit older, I started to go and see them a little bit, and I started to see what it meant to their friends and my family, and I have so many people around me that have seen the Dead so many times. And music's music is a religion, and the Dead is a church that we all like to hang out at. But I especially got into it as I got a little bit older and started going to shows. One thing for me that I don't think really ever gets mentioned is like when I was younger, Sublime was cool to me, and Sublime did that cover of Scarlet Begonias. That kind of opened the door a little bit to hearing it with different ears. But like I said, as I got older, started to go to shows, saw Dark Star, saw the Dead, Further, all that. And then what really kicked it into gear for me is when I bought a house. I met a cool neighbor, and he had a hard drive full of shows. So I didn't have to go to the archive. I just loaded all the stuff onto my iPod, and I've spent the last 8 years where we just sit around and smoke weed and talk about life and really analyze the Dead and really go into drums, really go into Dark Star, really go into playing anything that's got a serious jam. And we lived between 66 and 77, started doing the every day, show a day thing that particular day, really, really living in it, and just love the community. I love the inclusiveness of the scene. And can I say, man, it's the best music of all time, like I listen to all kinds of stuff. I play in bands, but I always come back to the Dead, always. But I really appreciate your show, and I love the culture of the Dead, and I love everybody that's into it and just making it all new again.
Well, Derrick, thanks so much for telling us all that and coming on the show. And
hell yeah,
cheers.
You look like a drummer, Derrick. Gotta say.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, man.
Right on. Seth, Todd, and Bob are now fighting for 2 spots in a best of 3 series to win the Dyer on the Mountain prize pack. Let's see what Rob has cooked up for us here. Let's play the song.
Sitting in Mangrove Valley, chasing light beams, everything wanders from baby to sea. Baby, pretty young on Tuesday, old like a rum, drinking demon at tea. Baby, tell me what's the matter. Why, tell me what's your why now. Tell me why will you never come home? Tell me what's your reason if you got a good one. Everywhere I go, the people all know everyone is doing that rag.
All right, the guesses are in. Doing That Rag at Fillmore West on February 27th, 1969. Rob, nice pick. Talk a little bit about that one.
When they invent the time machine, that's where I'm going. Because that's the night that the majority of Live Dead is from, as well as that Doing That Rag. You know, I only wish I could have seen them then.
Awesome. Well, we had two people guess 1968. Seth and Todd, they're both going on to the finals. Bob, birthday guys, eliminated. Well, let's start with Todd here. Todd, you guessed 1968, 1 year off, right on it. What'd you hear?
So clearly very early sort of garage band era Dead. In sort of 65, 66, maybe 67, they were playing with just a reckless abandon. They were just going for it all the time. Drums are really heavy no matter what. The vocals are kind of wavering a little bit. And then they mature, as Rob said, as they get to the Live Dead era towards 69. The band matures a whole lot and things get a lot tighter and cleaner. I didn't think it was quite as tight and clean as 1969. So I guessed 1968. I couldn't hear Jerry's guitar. This was sort of a vocal section. So maybe with some lead guitar, I could have listened for the differences between his sort of mid-60s Gibson Les Paul sound versus, again, a crispier late 60s sort of Gibson SG sound.
Well, joining you in the best of three series will be Seth, who also guessed 1968. Seth, anything you want to add to that breakdown?
Yeah, so I heard two drummers, so I knew it was after 67 or 67, and obviously no Keith, so it was before 71. Like Todd said, the early 60s, that mid, 66 to 68, it was really loose, and this was getting towards starting to tighten up a bit. So I was also in the 68, 69 region, and I was thinking possibly 67 and possibly 69, so I went 68 to be safe in the middle.
Playing the game. Playing the game.
I don't have that refined of an ear, so I'm guessing.
Well, that's how you advance to the finals, what you just did. Bob, happy birthday. I'm sorry it didn't end with the guest of the year victory and Dyer on the Mountain prize pack. You guessed 1971. Talk us through it.
Yeah, that was just the pristine nature of that recording really threw me for a loop. I knew it was early, and I knew that 71 was kind of outlandish, but that was, again, just kind of getting into my head a little bit, like thinking, man, this sounds really, really good. And is it just too good for 69? And I was on 70, 70, 70. And then I kept thinking, well, what if it's like really early 71? And that's kind of what tripped me up. But I kept coming back to 70 and then just thinking, man, this just sounds so good. That recording, the quality of that recording was just really, really strong. And just kind of tripped myself up a little bit, overthought it. And I was trying to roll the dice knowing there's only three of us left.
Rob, where did that? Was that a soundboard, a tape, or?
Yeah, that's from their officially released, 10 CD live at the Fillmore box set, all from
Nice.
227, 28, and 3 169, which is just spectacular. And also that song never made it past 1969, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right.
It's too bad. It's a great song. Bob, how'd you get into the Dead?
So started pretty early. I was definitely, I think, like a touch head. You know what I mean? I was like 10 or 11 when Touch of Grey came out in grade school, like always into classic rock. Really dug that song, really dove in at that point. I remember getting like a Skeletons in the Closet cassette tape when I was in like 8th or 9th grade and just wearing that thing out. And then it's funny that this is where we landed with this particular out, for me at least, is because I remember I grew up outside Philadelphia, went with a friend to New Hope, Pennsylvania. We saw a sign tacked up to a telephone pole advertising, trading tapes. And this is before we knew about like the trading tape culture. But this guy was just like looking for dough, I think. So we followed it. We wound up in this attic apartment in New Hope. This guy had a bunch of these really, really crummy gen cassettes of early Dead. And we picked up some stuff from the Fillmore that I still have it. And I put it on my cassette deck every now and then. It sounds like garbage nowadays, but we did not know what we knew now. I mean, I think that you look back at those days where generation was everything. And once I got into the community and started learning how to trade tapes and trade CDs and stuff like that, it was just my mind opened. And I got to see the Dead a couple times towards the end of their run with Jerry, but always stayed up with the various offshoots, and been diving in deep with my CD collection and now archive ever since. And it's just a blessing. I think that we take for granted nowadays that we've got these incredibly, as we said earlier, crispy recordings of these concerts at our fingertips, and it wasn't always that way. I can attest to that. If I played my recording of that song that I first landed many years ago, but it was just a great community. I love the music. I love the fact that basically nearly every note they've ever played is on record, and we've got access to it. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Do you miss the thrill of the pursuit? Did we lose anything there by the thrill of the pursuit of good tapes?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that there's something to it. Like, it always felt good when you got like a score or you got like access to a really crispy recording. But I also think that kind of like that created like almost an artificial caste within the community. It was like became who you knew, a little bit, maybe too much. And I think what we have now is fully democratized. And I lived down the street from a guy who taped in the late 90s and the early 90s, and it's like he's got an amazing amount of stuff, but all the stuff he's got is available, and that wasn't the fact that I've got access to him. He's a couple houses away. Doesn't change the fact that people in California can have access to what he's got. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's great about it now. It's just much more democratic, and everybody has access to it. And I think the better the quality, better the experience for all of us. So,
got it. So you were aware of a higher caste of tapes that you didn't have access to back in the day?
Well, it's just hard when you didn't have anything to give. You know what I mean? When you're just trying to get in. All you had was these low gen cassettes that nobody really wanted, and so you'd have to do all these crazy maneuvers. Send a whole bunch of blank cassettes to someone and a wing and a prayer that you get a bunch back, and some of them would be relatively decent. And it was just a process. There was an aspect of it that was fun. I don't want to deny that, right? There, like you said, like kind of that scavenger hunt aspect. And when a buddy came upon something that was phenomenal, you'd all go to his house and listen to it. There's something about that you can't take away. But I love the fact that at our fingertips now, we've got basically the best possible one. We've got 7 different options to listen to sometimes nowadays with like matrix recordings and stuff like that. That it's just awesome. I love it. I wouldn't trade it, I don't think.
It's really interesting. I guess this question's for Rob, because Rob, you kind of saw the scene develop, having gone to your first show in '73. Why couldn't someone just go out and buy the tapes from someone?
It's not the way it was, man.
Just
not the way it is. It was the free underground tape exchange. That's how it started.
So what would happen if someone just like showed up at Shakedown Street and tried to sell tapes? They get their ass kicked?
Yeah, because the band's letting you do it. They're not asking for money for it. So how could you?
It's so cool that everyone was able to like keep that, code of honor up, even as they became, millions of tapes floating around, and everyone kind of kept it going. That's awesome.
Yeah, unless you're trying to take advantage of a couple high school kids from Philadelphia.
Okay, Bob, thank you so much. Please, happy birthday. Have a few more
Thanks,
of those beers.
It was great. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great.
Mike.
Happy
Thanks, Rob.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Bob. This has been a crazy game. Very impressive across the board. Seth and Todd are on to a best of 3 series to see who wins the Dyer on the Mountain prize pack. Rob has some great tunes picked out. Let's get it going.
Killing me, Rob.
I know I wasn't close, but maybe.
You were definitely close. I don't think either one of you guys is going to get tricked that badly. It just doesn't seem to be possible. It was Morning Dew at College of William and Mary on April 15th, 1978. That was a thrasher, Rob. Great pick. Talk us through that one.
The only do of 1978, and got to write the liner notes for the release of this official release a year or two ago. Dave's picks. I don't want to say the wrong number. It could be, I think it's 37, I think. Thank God there's been so many of them. But yeah, got to be there. Took a bus trip from high school, 50 other friends. It was life-changing. Great stuff.
Did any other songs stand out at that show?
Yeah, a lot of them.
All of them.
Yeah, pretty much all of them. The show starts with an insane Mississippi half step and great, crazy brown-eyed women in that show. That's a great show.
Okay, Todd, guess 1978. He got it exactly. Seth,
Yay.
guess 1980. Todd, you nailed it. What'd you hear there?
So the overall sort of sound quality, audio quality is remarkably similar to the first 2 cuts that we heard. Cued me in on the late 70s pretty much right away. And then again, just a number of characteristic things about 1970. It's a year where they just killed it and they went really hard. And this sounds like when every single person in the band was just going really hard, especially the drums. Garcia's guitars got that sizzle to it. And it just sounds emblematic of that particular era to my ears. I could hear Keith on the keyboards. I was listening, trying to differentiate Brent versus Keith, and I heard Keith do a couple of ring sort of things on the keyboard, which is typical of him from that era as well. And I knew that Rob plays a lot of 1978. Rob really loves 1978, and so I just keyed right in on the year and pulled it out.
Well, Todd, it seems like you listen to a lot of Grateful Dead. How did you get into the Dead?
So at about age 15 or so, I was really a kid that was into heavy metal music, Scorpions and Dio, and I transitioned to a different group of friends, and this group of 5 or 6 friends introduced me to classic rock, Pink Floyd, Neil Young, Led Zeppelin, music that I had never really paid any attention to, and ultimately the Dead as well. And I really took a liking to it pretty much right away. Shout out to my friend Eric Rabinowitz, who put some headphones on me one night after a long night of partying, told me to lean back. And he put on a show, which I think might have been Alaska 1980. He was always pretty into that one. There's a Lazy Lightning in there. And I listened intently for the first time ever and just fell in love. I fell in love with Jerry Garcia's guitar sound and melodies. I fell in love with Bob Weir's rhythm guitar. It was the two guitars playing together that I had always wanted to hear. And then I heard the bass and then the keys and the 2 drums, and it just really took off for me from there. Started trading tapes all through high school and college as much as I could. I saw the Dead as soon as I could, which was in early 1987 at the Hampton Coliseum. And I think I ended up seeing somewhere between 50 or 75 shows before 1995, before Garcia's death. Every time I try and figure out how many shows I saw, I can't remember. I just can't remember when I look at the list. But yeah, it was all about friends for me. It was all about a new group of friends and new music. And I just got turned on and loved it pretty much immediately.
We don't get enough Bob shout outs on the show. So I have to ask, when you put on those headphones and you really loved Bob's rhythm guitar, what were you hearing? Why did it resonate?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge Bob Weir guitar fan. I think Bob Weir is an amazing rhythm guitar player. And I might catch a whole lot of flack for saying this, but Keith Richards wishes that he could play rhythm guitar like Bob Weir. Bob Weir is amazing at sort of painting little motifs and melodies in between the lines. He's not great at maybe strumming the big chords and getting all the big, rhythm guitar energy level up. But what he does in between the other instruments, in particular playing off of Garcia's guitar work, is so in the moment and in the pocket. It's little plunky, picky little lines that don't sound like anyone else that I know of that plays the guitar. And I have just always found his playing to be extremely unique and very inspirational. Bob Weir is severely dyslexic, and he'll talk about how songs that he writes are sort of dyslexic songs, and they are. And his rhythm guitar playing sort of reveals that as well, where he's playing things that are not at all what a typical sort of rhythm guitar line might be. They're very, very unique. And I think in many instances, they're really just tremendous musicianship.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Seth, you guessed 1980. 2 years off. Pretty close. Why 80?
Because Rob's messing with my head, man. I didn't think he was gonna pick another late 70s show. So I'm like, and all the signs were there. And I second guessed myself, and I put 80, knowing that it sounded like Keith. I'm having a hard time for whatever reason trying to decipher the keyboard sound, the piano sound. But it definitely sounded like Keith. But I put 80 just in case. So another guess. I guess I guessed close.
Damn. Well, playing the game saved you the first time and cost you the second time. Seth, how'd you get into the Dead?
Actually, I was born into it. My parents were huge Deadheads. I'm 42, so I was born in 1980, and they moved out to Santa Barbara in the 70s and got into the West Coast Dead scene out there, following them around a bunch, and came back. I'm from Massachusetts originally. They came back to Massachusetts, and I was born. But all their friends, all their family, they're all huge Deadheads too. So it was just always there. I don't know life before the Grateful Dead, so I was very lucky. My father had hundreds and hundreds of bootlegs. And my friends had them. Where I grew up in Massachusetts, it was very rural, and it was that right time in the 90s. I don't know if you want to call it like the neo hippie thing or whatever, like but these bands like Black Crowes and Spin Doctors and Edie Brickell started coming out, so it was like everybody was putting on tie-dyes again. And that was right when I was coming of age, so everything kind of lined up. And I've just, like I said, I've always had the Dead in my life, always will have the Dead in my life. And I've met some of the greatest people. I've listened to some of the greatest DJs, and I do want to give a shout out to Rob too, because going over the years, just those voices, Rob's voice, David Gann's voice, David Lemieux now, it's like going home or having, somebody very familiar, whether you're driving the car or sitting at home, but it's just that voice. So Rob, thanks. You put on heck of a show. The shows you pick and the descriptions you give, and that may help me win this competition.
All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Glad you dig it.
And now I play drums as well, and I'm in a Grateful Dead tribute band in North Carolina. We play North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina. The band's Bring Out Your Dead. I gotta do the shameless plug. Yer is YER. So look us up on Facebook, Instagram. We try our best to put on a Grateful Dead show whenever we play. So we go. We got 2 drummers. We do the whole drum space thing. Really try to recreate that atmosphere, but also play to our own strengths and our own tastes. But if you ever want to see somebody that really hones in on that Bob Weir part, Jonas Mack, he's our rhythm guitarist. Check him out on some of our YouTube stuff. That he's so tight in with Bob Weir. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't bring up the band earlier. Bring Out Your Dead. I've been watching you guys on YouTube. Great sound. Love the 2 drummers. Love the Monty Python reference. But yeah, actually, wanted to ask you, is it difficult to coordinate rhythmically with a second drummer, and do you enjoy playing with a second drummer?
So people ask me that, whether I like playing with 2 drummers or by myself, and they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So when I'm playing with 2 drummers, I have the freedom to be able to color on top of what the other, the drummer's doing. So I have the freedom to open up, and I don't have to keep the beat or keep that drive going. I can just kind of paint over the top. So I have that total freedom. However, I'm lacked in the part where I can't really do all the intricacies because we wouldn't be meshed up. So you see that with Bill prior to Mickey, where he's just loose and he's all over the place. And I think Phil even said, he's like a god, back there playing drums. It sounded like he had 8 arms and 6 legs during those 70s, especially like 74. He was all over the place. So he has that total freedom. So when I'm playing solo, single drums, I have that freedom too, where I can just explore on my own. I don't have to worry about losing somebody or, dragging somebody along with me or following somebody's lead too. So yeah, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. And I love the aspects of both. I'm very lucky to do that. Not a lot of people get to play with 2 drummers. It's fantastic.
Bring Out Your Dead. Thanks, Seth.
Bring out your dead.
Okay. Todd's up 1-0 in the series. He needs 1 more to win the Dyer on the Mountain prize pack. Seth needs 1 to tie it up. Rob has a song ready for you guys. Let's play it.
Bringing me down, I'm running the ground, blinding the light of the interstate cars, passing me by. The buses and sinners plunging like stones from a slingshot on Mars. But I'm here by the road, bound to the Lord. I picked up in 10,000 cafes and bars. Along with the rest of the drivers that won't pick me up. The highway, the moon, the clouds and the stars. And the black-throated wind keeps on playing with its words of a life where nothing is new. But I'm Mother American night, lost from the light. Oh, and I'm down into you. Now I left St. Louis, city of blues. In the midst of a storm, I'd rather forget. I tried to pretend it came to an end. 'Cause you weren't the woman I once thought I'd met.
Okay, the guesses are in. Black-throated wind at Les Zénith in Paris, France. Les Zénith. On October 27th, 1990. Rob, tell us a little about that one.
Sort of like a new era, another era in the Dead, post Brent Midland, with Vince Wilnick and Bruce Hornsby helping out, and I just felt that Cherry just got completely recharged playing. I mean, Brent's loss hit him super hard, but his interaction with Bruce Hornsby, those guys were having such a blast together for a good little window there of like 90, 91. They were putting on some good shows, having fun. I saw them with Hornsby at the Garden Run just a few weeks before that, or a month before that, and felt so charged from it. I was like, I got to go to Europe, so got to see Wembley and these shows at the Zenith. And it's also the first time I saw Black-throated wind.
So you've done a ton of jobs in the music industry, like archivist, publicist, DJ, obviously. What were you doing around the time that you went and saw those shows in Europe?
It's funny. I think in 1990, I think I had a 2-year span there where I think I was a before my time dispensary provider.
That's awesome.
I think that's how I spent my 1990 and found myself in Europe.
Well, Rob, you're the last one to go here. How'd you get into the Dead?
I got into the Dead basically through hanging out at a friend's house and having an older brother and my friend's older sisters. You know, we're listening to their Grateful Dead, New Rise to Purple Sage, and Allman Brothers records. I really clung on to the New Riders early on. They were by far the band that really changed my life even before I heard the Dead. But through knowing of the Riders and their history and their association with the Dead, of course, that led to hearing more Dead. And so, yeah, and then was able to finally start in high school seeing them on a, as regular basis as I could, starting in 1977.
So you host the Dead channel on Sirius, but you also host the Pearl Jam channel. So I wanted to ask you, as the host of the Pearl Jam channel and a Pearl Jam expert, do you think this game, Guess the Year, could work with Pearl Jam? Would it be as interesting?
Yeah, you've got enough years now where it definitely could, and they definitely have eras as well as far as some different drummers and sounds. So, yeah, I think I could.
Cool, thanks. I've always kind of wondered that. I think it'd definitely work with Fish, but I was wondering, could it work with Pearl Jam? Seems like yes. Todd, you want to chime in?
I think this game could absolutely work with Pearl Jam. They've got just an absolutely rabid fan base that's super focused on live. releases. They've been releasing live music forever. Rob does an amazing job on Pearl Jam Radio on Sirius XM playing live cuts. I listen to him there a lot. I listen to him every day on the Grateful Dead station on Sirius XM as well. Rob does an amazing job. And I just think with the fan base that they have and their allegiance to live recordings, I think you could make this work with Pearl Jam.
Okay, well, I will stop being a little punk and keeping people on the edge of their seats. Seth guessed 1988. Todd guessed 1991. So Todd is the new champ of Guess the Year. Congratulations, Todd. That was an impressive display.
Nice. Thank you.
Good job,
Awesome.
Todd.
How'd you figure that out? You're 1 year off. How'd you figure it out?
Right away I could hear that it was sort of the modern era of the Dead certainly into the 90s. I was listening for two keyboards. I could definitely hear Vince Welnick's sort of real light, twinkly keys in there, and I was listening for Bruce Hornsby as well. Somebody earlier said it's been hard to sort of find the keys in some of the recordings that we're listening to. I totally agree. I thought I heard Bruce, then I thought I didn't hear Bruce, and eventually I decided I did hear Bruce Hornsby, and I know that's in the early 90s as well. The bass during this era, 90, 91, and that's what I wrote down was 90 or 91. The bass during this era is big and thick and plunky and round, and I thought I heard that as well. But at the end of the day, I ended up saying 91 because the 1990 post-Brent era is very, very brief. It's just sort of the end of the fall of 1990. So I've got a bigger set of possibilities if I choose 1991. And so that's what I went for.
Yeah, 91 definitely makes more sense for this game, playing the game. Seth, thank you so much for playing the game. You had a great run, and you guessed 1988 on this one. What'd you hear there?
So, again, yeah, I agree. It was really tough to hear the keyboards, and I think I've been struggling with that throughout the whole game. So that's been a challenge. I couldn't decipher if there was Bruce or Vince in there, and I thought I heard a little Brent flourish, and I was thinking definitely not as refined as the 90 tour, and even 89. So I was thinking 88, somewhere in that late 80s period, which is such that's like a guessing game, trying to figure out those late 80 shows or the years. So, but yeah, that's why I picked 88. And good job, Todd. That was a good game.
Thank you, Seth. It was super fun going head to head against you guys, and just awesome playing with everybody here today. Great crew, super fun. Really appreciate it.
Really impressive run by you, Todd. Very impressive run by you too, Seth. Rob, thank you so much for being here. It was really special for the show and for all of us. Amazing picks. Thanks so much.
Thanks. It was good to be here and good to turn folks on to some of these things. And I also on that last one on the was not the best example to highlight Bruce's appearance with the band, but had to throw a weird song in there. So great to be here. Cool show. It's great meeting you guys and hearing your stories.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, subscribe to Guess the Year on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For show updates, follow us at Guess the Year Show on Instagram. And if you want to be a contestant on the show, sponsor the show, or make comments and ask questions, email us at guesstheyearshow@gmail.com. Thank you so much to Rob Bleetstein for coming on the show. Yeah, can't thank him enough. Thanks so much to Dyer on the Mountain. We are very fortunate to have them be providing the prize pack for Todd today. Dyer on the Mountain just makes incredible dyes. So original, so tasteful, beautiful colors. Every single one of them feels new. Like I've never seen that tie-dye pattern before. She's amazing. Jennifer's amazing what she does. Very, very impressive. It's Dyer on the Mountain. All of her information will be in the show notes. And everyone should check Dyer on the Mountain out. Thanks again, Jennifer. And thanks so much to From the Lot for curating the prize packs. I personally wouldn't be able to do it without Mason. Mason knows everyone and has great taste. So it's a good combination for putting together prize packs for a show like this. And I appreciate him doing it. Thanks so much From the Lot. Okay, and thank you so much for listening. Also, thank you to Dylan, who draws the posters every week. If you haven't checked those out, at Guess the Year Show on Instagram, you can see all of his posters. Thanks, Dylan. And thank you to the amazing tapers whose recordings made this show possible. Congratulations to our new winner, Todd. And to our other contestants, thanks so much for playing. And remember, it's all one song anyway.
And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night.